Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. And tonight we'll be doing a spoiler cast for the recently released film that is just sweeping the box office by storm, the Christopher Nolan war epic, Dunkirk. Yes. Oh boy, man, oh man, Dragon. This is a movie. So, guess we'll start with giving our first reactions to it, kind of our expectations going in, thoughts coming out. For me, I don't know, Dragon. Like, Christopher Nolan's an interesting guy for me, where it's like he's made some damn good movies. Obviously, he's a masterclass filmmaker in some respects. And then there's that one movie that we don't talk about here on the channel that I think he completely dropped the ball on.
It's a good thing we don't talk about that movie.
Yeah, we don't talk about that movie. And then also Interstellar. I think Interstellar, I was way more high on the movie when I first saw it than I am now. I think Interstellar has a few really fantastic moments in it. I don't think as a whole the film really holds together all that much. I think certain moments in it are incredible. And so now we get to Dunkirk. So I wasn't really knowing what to expect with this one, Dragon. I will say one of the things that I was just dreading with Dunkirk was the runtime. I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Christopher Nolan is already known for making like 2.5 hour, 3 hour long films. You throw in a war movie, like a war movie is a perfect excuse for Christopher Nolan to do like a Lawrence in Arabia style, like 3.5 hour, like opus. And then I found out this.
Nolan's doing a war movie. You think of like the war movie. You think of
exactly.
Saving Private Ryan. You think Nolan's going to do his own version of a Saving Private Ryan, which is really long, like 2 hour 40-minute movie.
And then I hear the runtime, Dragon. And the runtime was the thing that really got me excited for this
Same
movie.
length as Deadpool. Hour 40.
Yeah. And of course, this is the shortest movie that Nolan's ever done outside of his first movie, Following, which was kind of just a student film in many respects. So it's really the shortest, certainly the shortest studio production that Nolan's ever done. But Dragon, so I was really looking forward to the movie just based on that. I was like, okay, even if it falls flat with some of the character stuff like certain other movies of his did, it'll still go by fast. You know what I mean? And like at worst, it'll be like a quick sort of experiment that, you know, in the Nolan style. And at best, it's going to be a really, really damn captivating movie. And then I kept hearing about this 3 timeline thing, and I wasn't quite sure.
There's a word for it, Tiki. It's called a triptych. It's a threefold story structure.
Okay.
Triptych.
So yeah, I kept hearing about it. I wasn't really sure what to make of it, and watching the movie, Dragon, I gotta say, watching the movie, coming out of it the first time, I was like, yeah, that was really well done. You know, it really kind of put you into the experience of it. Watching the movie a second time, Dragon, oh God, this movie, like, you almost kind of need to watch it a second time because of all the intricacies of the story, of all the things that kind of crisscross between the 3 storylines. But Dragon, I think this is a Christopher Nolan masterpiece. Like, this is, for my money, this is pretty definitively Christopher Nolan's 3rd best movie behind The Dark Knight and Inception. And I would even make an argument to say it might be a better movie than The Dark Knight. And keep in mind, folks, this is coming from someone who, I think The Dark Knight has a lot of good qualities to it. I think especially in the first act, it's also got some pacing problems. It's got kind of almost too convoluted of a mob plot for its own good. Go after him, folks. I don't know. Like, I've never been a war movie guy, but between this and then seeing Saving Private Ryan for the first time this year for Spielberg month, I'm developing a taste for the genre, Dragon. I gotta say,
I know what you should watch next, Tiki. Now it's on demand. Now it's Hacksaw Ridge. You gotta see Hacksaw Ridge next.
Oh, Hacksaw Ridge is on demand. Okay.
Oh
cool.
yeah, it's on HBO now.
Cool. Yeah, and I mean, like to this point, the two war movies that I've seen and really appreciated have been Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket, which both sort of did very different things with the war genre. And in a way, this movie,
In a way, you've gotten 4 different tastes of war movie.
I guess so. I guess so. I don't know, Dragon. Like this movie barely even feels like a war movie, though, in kind of a good way. This movie feels like a goddamn Hitchcock movie. It really does. It feels like a Hitchcock movie in the way that it sets up and pays off tension, in the way that just in the way that it's shot, in the way that the story's put together. I don't know, like this might not be a masterclass in character by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think this is a masterclass in just like this is sort of like everything that Christopher Nolan's been building to when it comes to creating like movies based on sort of like weird funky timelines. Like this is like I think this is the best example of Christopher Nolan playing with a timeline of a movie to make something really unique and captivating and interesting out of it. Am I going to watch this movie 100 times like something like Inception or The Dark Knight? Probably not. But I just think the experience of it, like this is like the ultimate sort of like theme park ride interpretation of a war. You know what I mean?
Theme park ride interpretation of war.
I say theme park ride because it puts you right in the middle of the action.
No, I get I get you're right.
The whole thing is like a theme park ride.
I wouldn't go with that description, but I understand exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Okay.
It's like not exactly like it's a small world with the concentration camps.
No, it's not like Small World, Dragon. All right.
Okay.
But okay, go ahead. Your thoughts.
All right, going in, the anticipation going in. I remember the cool cryptic marketing campaigns. Remember there was talk of like the future projects of Christopher Nolan. There was talk of a war movie. There was always that potential James Bond rumor, which I'm so desperate to get fulfilled one of these days.
I don't want him to do it. I don't want him to do it.
All right, let's. Okay. Anyway,
I think he's too creative for James Bond. I think James Bond is beneath him.
That'd be fun.
I don't like the James Bond franchise. I just really don't.
I thought you liked Skyfall.
I like Skyfall. I don't think it's a great movie, and even then,
did you see? I've asked you this. I know you probably told me. Did you see Spectre?
No, I haven't seen Spectre.
Spectre was good. I think you'd like it. It's the sequel to Skyfall. I don't know, it's not as good as Skyfall. It's by the same guy. It's good. Anyway.
Look, all I'm saying is that I'm not a big Bond guy, and I want Nolan to do original stuff.
All right. Well, my point is that's just as me and I guess a certain sect of Nolan fan. But my point is there's always been like these talk of projects Nolan's been taking on. I believe the Dunkirk was rumored. It's basically an obscure movie
this is a movie that Nolan's wanted to do his entire career. In many ways, This is the movie that Nolan's been building up towards doing.
Yeah, so there was like talk of like Nolan doing an obscure war movie. Basically, a war it's not really been told that much, if at all, honestly. And basically, what I remember most is like once they announced like okay, he's actually doing a movie called Dunkirk. So it basically had a title, and then at some point, I guess last year possibly, around December, if I'm right, we got the cool cryptic marketing. We got this really great teaser trailer where basically we're on the mole. The mole being the mole's like I believe the British word for peer or something, maybe French for peer, something for peer. Basically, something they'll stand on. So basically, it's all the guys like in their cool helmets, just looking up and like, oh my, like something bad's coming from with that loon.
Oh God, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
It's so good, but you know what I mean. I mean that just based on that alone is basically all these soldiers looking up. They're like squinting and they're seeing something horrific, and they're batting down the hatches, like they're bending down that little on that pier while that ticking sound's going on in the blackness. Dunkirk. That's a great teaser trailer, right? You want to see that movie.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So based on that, it's like, okay, I'm expecting another great Nolan film. That's what I'm expecting.
And that was the only marketing I needed for this movie. I didn't watch any other trailers. I just like, okay, I'm in.
It's kind of funny. I had only seen 2 things for Dunkirk. So that teaser I just told you, was that enough? Is enough to sell me? I don't need to see it. I'm with you.
Exactly.
But I just like on TV. I think this like played somewhere. I had seen a trailer for Dunkirk, and basically it's like I wasn't like listening to it intently because I don't need to be sold. I don't need anything else. Basically, 2 bits in the trailers I did stick with me. Because again, it's still pretty cryptic in the trailer what it's about. It's about okay, so you're getting a sense probably based on a true story, obviously. basically we had the two bits of the you saw a bit of the flyer, the flyer bit, which is awesome. We'll get there. The flyer. And the bit for me, it sounds very simple, just Mark Rylance saying this. Just boil it down to like a very brief impression. I just love it. Honestly, this is all I really needed, along with that teaser. I love hearing Mark Rylance say Dunkirk. So every time I say the movie, when I'm alone, every time I say that, every time I think of like of him saying Dunkirk.
Dragon, I've got to admit, like, Mark Rylance has a lot of inspirational moments in this movie. Him saying the word Dunkirk isn't what instantly springs to mind, but
no, I'm just saying going in,
more power to you.
I'm just saying going into the movie, like, just based on like nothing in the movie, just like just based on like again, just trying to as little as possible go into the movie. Just, it's like everyone like something bad's coming for these guys. Are all ducking down Dunkirk.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So again, it's based on that. I'm looking forward to it, and I felt when the runtime was announced, the shorter runtime, I thought that would prevent the Interstellar thing from happening. And my thing with Interstellar,
the Interstellar, Jesus Christ, that was a sit.
for me, the Interstellar, honestly, I don't want to get into a whole Interstellar discussion. I'm just going to say,
I enjoy Interstellar quite a bit. I just think it's a very imperfect movie.
For me, with Interstellar, my issue with is I think it's not bad, but I think we're adding unnecessary time with the whole Matt Damon. With the whole Matt Damon thing.
We've had this discussion before. I like the Matt Damon thing.
Again, it's not bad. Yeah. It's just, it feels like that's like...
The only thing I don't like about the Matt Damon thing is his name. It's like, his name is Dr. Man.
Yeah,
Do you get it?
All right. All right. But you see what I mean, though. Just the point is, like, we added time. Interstellar could have lost some stuff. It might have been the better for it, possibly. Regardless. So I felt that like after Interstellar, this would be like kind of a way of like Nolan doing a movie and be kind of new for him, and just we bring it up kind of dawns on me now that hey, we're kind of setting Nolan back to his film school days with a shorter film. It's kind of Nolan having kind of a second breath of his career in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking forward to, also the other thing I was looking forward to is again with those like 3 images from that one trailer, like the 3 images, I guess. If it wasn't Mark Rylance saying Dunkirk, I know he said Dunkirk again, so it was my main takeaway of the title was, but the other thing was like seeing Cillian Murphy, because I love Cillian Murphy. I loved him. I love how he's using Inception. I love just seeing Cillian Murphy. It's like nice to see that guy in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing, oh man, he's in this movie, and Tom Hardy's in this movie, but again, Cillian Murphy's in this movie. All right.
Right.
So basically, again, just ducking down. Dunkirk, Cillian Murphy, those 3 things. I'm sold.
Okay.
And going into it, the 70 millimeter gamble, I call it. Basically, I took a gamble between seeing IMAX or 70 millimeter because it's the only 2 options I had. Basically, you have like some versions of millimeter you could see the movie in.
Uh-huh.
I looked into it, and they said like again, it's like a realistic film thing. It's kind of what Nolan intended you to see the movie as. It was like, oh my god, I opted for the 70 millimeter. I tell you, coming out of it, the bridging to my head came out of it very quickly. Is that coming out of the movie, I was firmly convinced, if I wasn't already convinced, and this film was like a testament to it. Nolan is our new Kubrick. He really is. I think he's the new Kubrick.
I think it's between him and Paul Thomas Anderson. I
haven't seen enough of his stuff to kind of make that call.
Like the reason why I refer to Paul Thomas Anderson is because much like Nolan and much like Kubrick, Paul Thomas Anderson likes to play around with genre a lot. Right. Like he has very similar themes in his movies, but it's always a different genre. So
like I would take issue with your Hitchcock comparison. I see what you're saying but I'd say it's more Kubrickian than Hitchcockian in my view of it.
Oh no, I think this is very Hitchcockian. I disagree with that. I mean,
no, I'm saying I see.
I think this movie, kind of in Nolan's filmography, definitely goes a long way towards painting him as a Kubrick-like figure. But I think in terms of the actual feel of the movie, this to me very much feels like a Hitchcock movie.
Part of it feels like, again, we'll disagree on that part. I see your point. I'm just saying, adding to the Hitchcock, I'd say for me, it builds to that Kubrickian thing we've seen. It's like if Kubrick ever did a war movie, this would probably be it.
Full Metal Jacket.
Well, sorry, I meant if he did one. You know what I don't mean. If he did a war,
I believe he did a couple of his early movies were war movies as well. So don't even go down that road.
If he did one,
technically, Spartacus is a war movie. If you want to get technical with it.
I mean, for what for like the British side of things. If he did one for the anyway, regardless,
I'm sorry.
Nolan is in my feeds, like Interstellar was very much a Kubrickian movie for Nolan. This kind of feels like another Kubrickian kind of thing for him. Mm-hmm. I think the movie's so well made, and I will say this, while I'm getting full on the Kubrick thing, I will say this though. I think it's the most immersive Nolan film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
These are the most immersive Nolan films. I was very happy with it.
Okay. All right, so folks, we're going to kind of take a different structure from the usual spoiler cast because there's a lot of actors in this movie, Dragon, not a lot of characters.
Nope.
Even there's not really. And this is like one of the weird things with this movie that I think kind of works is that, to me, I almost kind of think the whole point of the movie is the lack of characters. You know what I mean? It's like the whole point of this movie is like we don't get a fireside chat scene. You know what I mean?
I tell you, I'm so darn mixed on that because it's so new and weird, right? I'm
not mixed in it at all. Personally.
No, I'm saying I'm mixing that. I know it's not bad, but I'm saying it's different. That's why I'm mixing. It's like instinctually based on everything else we usually get. It's like. Again, it's like there are no characters.
He needs to have the wife back home. What happened to the wife back home?
No, I don't need the wife back home, but you know what I mean. You know, part of me feels like, well, we need more characterization. What's going on here? This is
okay. Well, we'll break it down as we go through the movie. Yeah. I do think this movie has a central protagonist.
Yeah.
But it might not be who you're thinking of.
Well, no, I think Well, we'll get to it.
Okay.
But I'll lay some stuff out in the background. I think might change it too.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's some backstory, folks. And before we get, a whole boatload of features kind of telling us what the actual backstory is what I could dig up. So Nolan, from what I understand, Nolan had the idea for this, for doing a film on the Dunkirk, otherwise known as Operation Dynamo, which did take place through the course of a week. Check it out. So.
Oh no, I believe that. We'll talk about that timeline stuff.
So basically, he and his wife, they're going through the English Channel on a trip or something. And basically, his wife being his producer, Emma Thompson, if I'm remembering correctly. He has an idea while he's traveling with his wife, going by kind of where old Dunkirk took place, to do a movie on it 25 years ago. So he's nursed this idea for 25 years.
Basically, the whole idea of the story was that he and his wife were having trouble just going through the channel. You know what I mean? Just navigating it. And Nolan was just thinking, like, my God, if it's this difficult for us to just go through the channel, imagine the balls of steel that those men driving those boats through the war zone, you know?
Yeah. And it was always written as a shorter film. It wasn't like a full script page. It wasn't like a full script either. It was going to be like 70.
I would love to read the script for this movie. I would love to study it.
It was like a shorter script than he usually writes. Again, this was always intended to be shorter in the runtime.
Mm-hmm. That's such a smart decision on his end. It's like a stroke of genius in my mind.
And again, with that, he always had kind of the threefold. Again, I believe looking into, I think the proper word's it's called triptych structure. What a triptych structure is, and this is kind of what the inspiration is. Basically, there were these old, almost like painting/wood carvings. Or basically, in the middle, you have a. It's called like a threefold story. Again, threefold triptych being you have like a big image in the center, and on the side you have two images, and they all feed into each other. Like they're all like hinged together. It's like a piece of wood with like three panes of art. The middle one's the biggest, and you have two on the side, and they kind of they fold into a greater whole. So they all tie into each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, big middle with two shorts on the side, making the cohesive whole. We get mole, sea, then air. That's kind of like the structure is based on with that comparisons, folding in all sorts of different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's Nolan hit upon is he's going to do a movie not based around characters, but about survival at every turn. Basically, trying to survive every turn. It dawned on me when I was kind of going through this what he did, and I thought it was brilliant. Is that essentially he made a movie with nothing but matchstick moments.
Yes.
That's what he was going for. Seriously, you watch this movie, folks, or if you watch it again, you're going to see
you might have to explain a matchstick moment, Dragon.
Folks, just
really quick.
Okay, matchstick moments. This forwards that whole Nolan Pixar thing. Where again, they're both very just like success rates on Nolan and Pixar. Okay,
uh-huh.
But in Pixar, ever since the first Toy Story movie, there's this convention in a Pixar film called a matchstick moment. A matchstick moment is the match moment from Toy Story, where Woody has a match put in his pocket and Buzz has a rocket on his back, and they've lost the movie man. However, will they catch it up? And the audience, of course, is inferring, wait a minute. They think they know what's going to happen. Woody's going to light the match. He's going to light the rocket, and they're going to. That's it. We know exactly where it's going, and of course he lights the match, and car whizzes by, blows it out. Then the audience is left with this.
Right.
How the heck are they going to do it now? And that's the reoccurring. You always have the moment in a Pixar film of like we think we know where it's going. We're setting this thing up, and then nope, not going to happen. We have to go with something different. And Nolan, at every turn in this movie, like our guys, like, okay, we have a plan. We're going to do this. Torpedoed. No,
I mean that's especially relevant on the mole section of the movie.
Mole is absolutely the most matchstick moment of the entire thing. So there's constant matchstick moments. So basically, a lot of what now. I'd call it just another term for it. It's not matchstick moments. There's tons of what now, and that's kind of what Nolan went into the movie doing. You know, the third, and also doing the movie is like the movie essentially is entirely a third act filled with matchstick moments.
The movie is very much entirely a third act. Yes.
Let's see.
Nolan pretty much structured it as that.
I love this, and again, this is what compelled me to see a movie as I did. He structured it for he strained for a 70 millimeter, kind of an old. He wanted the old newsreel documentary look for it, which is additionally why we don't have characterization, because in those things you used to be looking at if you knew who they were, if you really kind of got to know, that would be like watching a newsreel in the olden days.
Yeah, and like I said, Dragon, it's like the lack of character thing. I mean,
it adds to the immersive effect, and again, it's hard
really
to.
Does.
Again, while it's again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's different. That's the thing. It's like that's the only reason I'm conflicted about. It's like it's different, but it makes sense.
All right, I feel like we kind of need to just jump into the story, unless you have any more background.
All right,
really quick.
Okay, so it's very anti-Hollywood. It's very much an anti-Hollywood war movie because it basically kind of made a list of no America. It's not a victory. It's not a victory. It's not America. It's the opposite of Saving Private Ryan. Okay. He avoided many conventions as possible. He interviewed veterans to get the most realistic account. I mean, guys walking into the ocean, that sort of stuff. So
that is very much based on a true story. Yeah.
In terms of the actual filmmaking, of course, with Nolan's style, very minimal with the CG. He had gimbals, like inside the cockpits are moving like a gimbal, like it turns upside down and still like left and right, and it's being spun practically. I'm amazed by this. He actually used cardboard cutouts for vehicles and actors. And it's like a practice that hasn't been used in a long while.
Oh, wow.
He used models. I mean, he used actual. Only Christopher Nolan.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Right?
Never
so in these crowd scenes, if you freeze frame out, he probably made it look so good you can't tell, but there were cardboard cutouts.
That is insane.
It hasn't been used in ages. So, and again, there are at least 50, if not 50 boats and about 10 ships. They're actually, 12 of them are from the actual Dunkirk.
Okay. Nice.
Used actual ships, snorkel lenses, and this is a new one. The last thing is the record he kind of broke here. He attached IMAX cameras. He did two things with IMAX cameras. He attached them onto fighter planes. So when they're flying, he did like the Howard Hughes thing. He did the Hell's Angel thing where you attach cameras to
planes. And it does just add so much to the realism and the immersiveness of the flight scenes.
And here's the record. Here's the new thing he did. The first. It's according to Spielberg and someone else. It's a first. Maybe Scorsese and Spielberg, but Spielberg and another director. It's the I'm sorry, Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg. They both confirmed this. They suggested that he do it. He used handheld IMAX cameras because they both did on war movies. It is the first handheld IMAX use.
Right.
75% of this movie is shot in IMAX.
Right.
Okay. We should establish the premise in a sentence just so we can.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Drake. Just really quick with the IMAX. Just one more thing to note with that.
Yeah, you saw an IMAX, right?
I wish. I fucking wish.
70 millimeter?
No.
I didn't know they did any other way. You just get regular?
I'm a normie, Dragon.
Yeah, I couldn't choose normie. I didn't have normie for some reason. They only had the two.
Well, I envy your position because I literally didn't have a choice to see it in a cool format.
All right.
Just one quick thing to set up with the IMAX. Is that a cool technique? Is that the 25% that's not shot in IMAX is done specifically when the characters are in really tight, close quarters so that you feel the you kind of feel the claustrophobia of those settings.
That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right, so let's establish the premise and like just so we know what the framing is for all this. It's 1940. Our guys are in a hopeless situation in the city of Dunkirk. This is the week of the operation of Operation Operation Dynamo. Sorry, Operation Dynamo. The idea is they invaded to help out, but then they were outnumbered by Nazis. This is when the Nazis invaded France.
Mm-hmm.
The Allies are desperate. They're cornered at every turn, and they're awaiting an evacuation. That's the set. That's the frame and dice for all this stuff. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to approach this movie from 3 different points of view, much like the movie does. We're going to go through the land, we're going to go through the air, and we're going to go through the sea.
We should probably do sea in the middle.
Yeah, Dragon, I was about to say, like, I don't think we're going to attempt to, like, do the podcast in that style.
No, of course not.
Like, okay, oh yeah, Tommy and, like, like Tommy's trying to get that body onto the boat, and then the plane, and... Okay, so yes, we do, like you said, we start with
the land segment.
I think the film's got a brilliant opening sequence, Dragon, with that.
My 2 favorite parts. This is one of them. This is the opening is my favorite part.
Yeah, with just right off the bat, you're just thrust into like the helplessness of the situation. Very, very subtle visual motif, Dragon, but I love how one of the first things you see is a soldier going for the hose and trying to get water, right?
Yeah.
And that is such an important kind of visual cue because water is going to be the fucking enemy in this movie.
Yeah, it really is the enemy. Water is death. It really is. It just is. It's like kind of it's a lazy. It's the
water
lazy
is
man's,
more evil than the Germans.
In a way, it's the lazy man's Jaws. It really is. It's the lazy man's Jaws.
Right. So I guess, Dragon, I don't necessarily want to talk about these sections like just beat by beat. Let's just
I want to just cover like the opening part I really do like about it, if I may.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, oh my god, the opening just has me so much because the opening is I like how we introduce one of our main guys here, Tommy. So we don't, a lot of these guys we don't know by name, so of course we're just pretty much going off of looking into what these guys.
That's why God invented the IMDb.
Essentially, we only know one of the characters' names, and that's in the second section.
Right.
So my point is, we open the opening with the young private with Tommy. And by the way, I love this. Is really cool to you. I don't know if you know about this. Tommy is the British is the British nickname as the nickname for British soldiers. Your everyman soldier. So Tommy, it's an everyman name for like, hey, every private's a Tommy. I see what they did there, and that's very clever because Tommy is not a character. I mean, let's just be honest here. He's not. He's got like a couple bits in the movie that kind of give character development, but really, all right, Dragon, the thing that I really want to I'm sorry, are you done with the opening? Well, no, I'm not done with it. So basically the opening is great. So basically 2 bits in the opening is fantastic. So one, of course, the flyer bit, which sets the stage so well, and it's such a cocky thing from the Germans, from the Nazis. It's so great. They're dropping flyers saying, this little thing saying the red, like they're the red, and we're surrounding you with this one little space saying, we're surrounding you, in your corner, we're going to kill you. Ha 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 ha. It's so great. It's so cocky and so World War II propaganda. It's so great. And it's so terrifying at the same time. But here's the bit that just gets you, folks. And again, 70mm, this thing looks fantastic. I just want to I won't keep flaunting the Antiqui's face this whole time. I don't mean to do that. I'm just saying the 70mm thing. It does exactly what Nolan's going for here, in that it makes it look like newsreel footage because it adds like that film grain all over the place and makes the colors pop, and it makes the sound louder. And it essentially just like our guys here have like a number of guys, and Tommy's one of them. Basically, we see him like in less than 10 seconds in the movie after those flyers drop. 10 seconds. Let's say there's 6 of the guys, 5 of them are killed out of nowhere, and then he's running through the city. It's kind of taking me back to some of those cool shots from Inception, but it's in it's a World War II era, like city, and it's, oh my god, it looks so cool. And basically he runs to our set piece, which is the beach. Oh, it's great. Hello? Tiki. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know if he's here right now. Huh. Well, I'm sorry, folks. He'll be back momentarily. Sorry, minors. Right? I trust you folks have heard what I've been laying out here, so I'm just keep going forward with it. So the point is just such a fantastic opening, though. Just again, just that vibe of, it's just that vibe of, again, this is a survival movie. That's the element of a war movie we don't really see that often. Where with Saving Private Ryan, again, there is danger at every turn, but here it is just a.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. So I don't know.
I have no idea what happened. My mic just decided to just die.
I thought I was dying there for a minute. I was like, oh my god, I'm butchering this, man. The first scene of the movie, and I'm killing it, and not in a good way.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, but just like the dangers of war, it's a survival movie. Our one guy runs to the main set piece. That's essentially what I just laid out for the folks here.
Sure.
And the Zimmer music's great with the ticking.
Yeah. Hold on, Dragon. One quick thing to get to before the ticking that I want to emphasize.
The immediacy of death. Go on.
Well, yes, that too. There's so many things to talk about with this movie. We have to kind of juggle it out.
I know. You go.
I love how the Germans are basically fucking Man from Bambi, right?
Yes, they are. They are. See, we got to address that. So it's so well. I'm thinking of the sequence later on in the boat. I was going to wait for that to talk about then, but.
No, I think it's appropriate here because we see the gunfire right at the beginning, but we don't see the Germans. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And, oh my God! I'm sorry, just hit me now in the moment. What's so brilliant is that.
Yes, man.
Yeah, but seriously, those flyers dropped. That's the taunt from this unseen man, of the Nazi man, if you will.
Liam Neeson is watching. Obscure Disney debates reference.
That's so funny, just considering that they're Nazis and given you Schindler's List. If you think about that for a moment, that he is he's the Nazi man now.
Again, based on an obscure reference to your podcast.
I don't know, but no seriousness though. It's so great that we have a tease from that's it's like that's them. It's the most dialogue they get is like them saying right. You're surrounded, and then we don't see them throughout the movie, but they're the dangerous, unseen bullet, and that's so realistic to war. Where you don't see them, but the end, death is coming from you every second from this unseen force.
Yeah, so that's just one of the things that Nolan just gets so right is the idea that the Germans are very much a presence in this movie, but they don't have a physical manifestation to them.
Here's a simpler comparison from Man. He played them he played Nazis like Jaws.
Yeah, it is very much like Jaws. I can see that. Sure.
You don't see it. I love that take on Nazis. We don't see them because we've seen billions of interpretations like that. Well, how can you reinvent the wheel on Nazis? Simple. You don't see them in the universe. And that's terrifying.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yes, Dragon, let's get into that goddamn ticking clock, which to me is like my main point of comparison when I say this movie feels like Hitchcock. Because that ticking clock is like one of the most inventive uses of diegetic sound in a non-diegetic sort of framing device. You know what I mean? It's go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, I came up with a comparison I'm kind of proud of for the ticking thing for the ticking device. Is that if you look at something like Saving Private Ryan, that is a film that boils down to these are every choice you make in war matters. Every choice has a consequence in war.
Sure.
In this film, especially with the score, with the ticking, is that every second matters.
And of course, that's very much kind of that gets into the three timeline things as well, because I think the whole point of the three timelines is that it's three different periods of time, but they're all three of the periods of time are impacting each other in the same
all
sort
moving
of way.
Forward. We're not going back. We're moving forward in all these timelines.
Right. So I very much think the immediacy of that is very much why Nolan decided to tell the story in that sort of framing device. But yeah, I don't know. Just the score. It's like I can't decide between this and War for the Planet of the Apes with the drums. The drums or the ticking clock.
I will say this though: the one difference with this score, it's great, and I will say this though: it does seem to work best with the movie versus
I'm not gonna download the score onto my fucking iPod and rock it out.
It's not exactly my comparison has been I really do like this score. And I think it works fantastically with the movie, but it's not exactly like an Inception score. You could listen to like the dream is collapsing all the live long day anywhere.
Or I think to me, like the best musical score that we've gotten in like at least the last decade or so has been Inside Out.
Well, yeah.
And I'll always champion that. Listening to the score for Inside Out from beginning to end is like, it's basically like listening to a story. It's so well put together. Anyways.
Anyway, again, Giacchino's a master, that guy, but you know what I mean.
But I mean, I just think like obviously the score isn't meant to be humble. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be like catchy. It's meant to be the opposite of catchy. Yes,
it's immersive, and again, it needs to be you need the visuals and the sound.
And the whole movie, you're just like, someone turn off that goddamn stopwatch. It's about to give me a panic attack.
Yeah, people were so scared and so jostled in the movie. Every again, I don't know if it's the IMAX and the 7mm or again just the tension of the watch, because either way, again, it's just nobody just has you by the cojones on this one. It's like, oh my god, make it stop! Exactly, it just gets in your head. God, I can't handle this. You paid the ticket. You're going to enjoy it. Sit down. Yes, Mr. Nolan. Oh god. It's Christopher Nolan, like he's like the usher with like the nightstick, you know, just like.
No, but he's like that classic kind of like British guard with like the big black hat and like the red coat and everything.
Yeah. Well, I think I wouldn't honestly I wouldn't go that far with it, but I wouldn't say, hey, no, Christopher Nolan, listen, I so sit here as a fun comparison for you from. He can pay likens you to a British guard. Okay, let's.
So with the ticking clock, just jumping ahead. I mean, of course, this is a non-linear story, so we're going to jump ahead with this stuff.
Ticking along.
I mean, I'm just saying, like at the very end of the movie, the moment where that clock stops, and it's silent, and we're in the train, and it's just like, oh, thank God. You know what I mean?
You betcha.
Okay. So let's talk about the depiction of camaraderie in this movie, which I think this is the best kind of selling point for why there is no real dialogue, is that we get the
visual storytelling at its finest.
Yeah, we get the friendship between Gibson and Tommy, and then there's also this third guy, Alex, who's kind of just like, I don't know, he's not memorable at all.
Alex is the Harry Styles guy.
He's not like, he doesn't stick out like the other two do. He's just sort of like along for the ride.
I like how he enters their story though. He's the guy they rescue from the sinking ship. That's the big take with that. One thing just on how our character or Gibson and Tommy meet. What's kind of cool is that we have like very real again Nolan's, he's striving for so much realism. It's astounding because we're getting things you don't really see all the time in war movies where he is. Right after he's the last survivor of his little group. He's again, and Nolan pulls us off. Like you imagine, like, oh, we're gonna do that joke, but no, it's like it's not a joke, obviously, but it's like again, realistically, the guy has to use the bathroom after he goes through all that.
Right.
And he does it again, amazingly. Nolan can like Planet of the Apes. We have a tasteful bathroom joke, like a bathroom moment. We have a tasteful bathroom moment where again, like he's it's the realistic kind of, it's the spasming kind of reaction to stress and stuff. And then in that moment, again, like a realistic. The fear gripping a man. He sees Gibson, what he thinks is burying his buddy here, but actually, and I like that the audience are putting this together before Tommy is. He's putting on a dead man's uniform. I got you got that right.
No, I didn't really get it, to tell you.
Really? I mean, he's like filling with his clothes and everything. He was very.
I didn't pick up on it.
Well, either way, I
picked up on it the second time I saw it. But
initially, I thought he might have been the mole for that. A lot of people can.
God! Yeah. Why couldn't they just call it the beach?
Well, again, because the mole apparently it's the French or British word. It's got to be French. It's got to be the French word.
I understand it's a French or British word for pier, but I mean, like the main characters in the mole storyline don't really get on the pier. Except for like maybe 10 minutes of screen time, it's mostly on the beach. Why couldn't they just call it the beach? It would save so much confusion.
Yeah, or land. Again, land would be they have the cities on land. Everything's on land.
Land, air, sea. Just call it land, air, sea.
I think even the speech has land. The speech mentions land, right? There's mentioned beach.
I'm pretty sure it's land.
Land. Come on. Anyway, so just Nolan being so detail bound with that stuff like that. And but yeah, that's.
But yeah, I mean, just going back to the camaraderie though. Like I said, I just like we hardly get 2 words exchanged with these 2 people, but we get it. We get why they are helping each other. We get why they are forming their bond.
And I love this, that they both, in that moment, they see each other at like very weak points. Again, a guy burying a guy, and the other one just kind of doing his business. In that moment, they see fear and see kind of worry over each other. And again, the other guy, he's putting on that uniform because he wants to sneak out of there with, because he's the Frenchman, in disguise. There's the idea. He's a French guy who wants to get out of there. And what's great is that they actually hatch a plan there. They see a wounded man. They're going to help him, but secondly, they're going to use that guy as their Trojan horse to get on board. They're going to hitch a ride.
Exactly.
And that's a great idea. It's like, yeah, okay, it's brilliant.
So as I was saying, this whole movie kind of has that sort of like, especially in this particular narrative, has that driving force of like, these 2 guys are not going to fucking sit around and, like wax poetic about their wives back home because they don't have time to do that.
Exactly.
The whole movie, they are fighting for their lives. The whole damn movie from beginning to end.
I wonder if Nolan on some level, is kind of thinking, is trying to, again, I don't want to make any controversy for Nolan. I just got to wonder if he's thinking, man, the Americans had it easy compared to the British with Dunkirk.
Right.
They really did. I mean, they could. If you look at Saving Private, they can chatter about everything. They're having like all these meaningful moments. We didn't have time for that.
Exactly.
But, anyway, yeah. But so let's get to our next step. So basically, them, helping, using the wounded man as a Trojan horse. We get to the bridge set piece, and the bridge set piece being the. And here's the thing: dawned on me while I was watching the movie. It didn't dawn on me when I saw like that. It was so blown away, but like, oh my god, cryptic marketing was. This idea is such a simple idea, but it's so brilliant. It's so desperate. It expresses the danger with that ticking. Is they're fishing a barrel on that pier. That's why they're ducking down like that. They're again. If the enemy was dropping bombs like they do, and again, like there'd be holes in that pier, like and dead guys. Oh, yeah. And I love they address that. Like, oh my, yes, they are fishing a barrel being shot like that. Like only thing they have is the duck down, and like oh god, it's. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I'm already kind of imagining the Honest trailer like, hey, just get off of the pier. Scatter a little.
I wouldn't do them. They're packed to the rafters, and even if they started running, there'd still be a few guys left getting blown.
I'm just saying they could spread out on the beach a little bit. I mean, I understand why they don't do that. But
they're holding their place in line. They want the first boat out of there.
All right, so while we're at the pier, let's talk about Kenneth Branagh's character and also James Darcy. Although I can't even recognize James Darcy, and I've seen this movie
I am amazed you did not. You didn't see him on the second time?
Not on the second time, no.
Really?
Nope.
You didn't recognize Jarvis in a hat?
Hold on, Dragon. I think that's a compliment to the movie because I don't think you're supposed to recognize actors. I think that's the whole point. I mean, Harry Styles is the fucking, like, One Direction kid, and he is, like, one of the most anonymous characters in the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, let's face it, Harry Styles is not exactly a A-list actor.
No, but I'm saying to a certain section of people, he's a huge star.
Okay, that's fair.
But, of course, Nolan cast Harry Styles without even realizing that he was from One Direction, so... Anyways, look, I'm not a One Direction fan, obviously. I know
just saying, like, going into the movie, I was looking for a few people. It was based on, like, James Darcy being in there. I was like, okay, I wonder where he's going to be. I'll admit, I see your point. I concede to your point. You're right. There was a lot of intention with that. That's why we cover up Tom Hardy and so on. So.
Well, yeah, and Nolan just has a fetish with covering up Tom Hardy's face.
Don't be like that. We saw his face all over the place, but then again, he did have a disguise motif in Inception, but we saw him without it. He
did have the disguise motif, that's true.
He did. But still, we saw the face. He's not afraid of Hardy's face. Tom Hardy's mom must be really mad at Christopher Nolan.
God. Anyways.
Why do you hate my boy's face? Why? Why? Oh, she probably wouldn't sound like that, but it was like, Mr. Nolan, why do you hate my boy's face? He's a good-looking boy. Why? Why? Every time I see him in the movies, he's got a silly get-up on, and he's I got to see my boy's pretty face, and then he's turning in all sorts of people.
Oh man. Okay, that was a rant and a half. Okay. But yes, Kenneth Branagh in this movie. What do you think?
He was good. I love the bit. Just to address it here. I love. Again, there's not a lot of character, obviously, but and again, that's the point. But I do like kind of like the last, like Branagh and Darcy's characters. They are staying to the last man. Of course, they're very. You have like a sense of honor. It's communicating. And with the few words of dialogue we do have, a lot is communicated, and that's important.
Sure.
With that, there's this great bit that Darcy has. This great bit that Darcy has in this movie that I really love with his character. Again, just the little we get goes a long way. Him basically kind of expositing to the audience why it's such a hopeless mission here, basically saying he's waiting for we need destroyers. Mm-hmm. And Branagh's very calming, and Branagh's the guy who's seen it all. He just communicates that like, hey, no, they need these for the next battle. This thing's gonna keep going on. This is just like a small pittance in the grand scheme, man. Those boats aren't coming. Yeah,
there's a lot of really good. I almost kind of feel like Branagh and Darcy are kind of like the spokesperson for the movie's themes in a lot of ways.
I could say again. I think Darcy with this moment, Teak, they communicate the hopelessness of the situation. It's an important moment.
Mm-hmm. I also love the whole running thing of like them mentioning like, like you can practically see home from here.
Yes, and oh god, but seeing home isn't the same as getting there. Mm-hmm. That to me is like a trailer bit right there. That's great.
And that's sort of like just that line of dialogue. It just says so much about like the mindset that those people must have been in, how frustrating it must have been.
Yes.
How, like, oh my god, I'm so fucking close, but I'm going to fucking die on this beach.
Goes a long way. That's what I'm telling you. It's. Mm-hmm. So let's see, and of course, now let's address kind of the grand. Again, we talk about the hopelessness in dialogue. Let's talk about the hopelessness visually. So we have a few great bits of hopelessness with all the land stuff. So let me address one bit here. So of course, our guys they get the they get the wounded man. That's a great sequence too. And I love that, and that's when the ticking clock's all again working to everyone's advantage. Where basically they're told like the thing's shipping off in 2 minutes, and again. Ticking clock. It goes hand in hand, and they're right. Going through like this sea of guys, and they're all part ways for the wounded man, and they get them through there, and they get them on board. They're trying to stay on board. Then they do this really sly thing where they're sliding underneath, and they're either about to get on the boat or on the boat for a second. They have to hop back, but it's the fact is once they get on the boat, and once the boat's about to ship off, torpedoed right on the port.
right.
It's like, again, that's the matchstick moment right from the beginning. They're all of that, and then like, they're sunk, and again, they're waiting for the next boat. It's insane. And then, of course, they meet Alex. They meet Alex, kind of the Harry Styles character. Who, again, I just like how they just kind of run to this guy. Now he's part of the story. He's just kind of along. Again, they're all just the reason for their camaraderie is purely survival. We all
and like I said, that's very realistic. That's how it would go on a battlefield like that. You just kind of run into people, and you have to work with them.
Yeah. Not tell again, like exactly what you said, Tig. It's not like, hey, you got a girl back home, so do I.
I am so glad there's no scene like that in this movie, Dragon. It's just so refreshing to not have a scene like that for me.
Okay, let's see.
This movie is like all about just kind of like blowing away war movie cliches, I think.
So let's move forward a smidge here. So let's get to the nighttime stuff. So we have, and by the way, if I'm right, 2 days go by here, but bear in mind this.
I want to talk about that. Let's talk about that.
So I figured this out to you. I looked into it. So here's how it goes. So Operation Dynamo, from what I understand, that lasted from. It's in May. No one addressed the weather thing. Yeah, the weather's for dramatic effect. It wasn't. It was actually nice weather when they were there at Dunkirk, but dramatic.
Right.
It's cool. Anyway, so from what I understand, it was like from the 20. I want to say the 28th to the 31st. So believably a week, and this is like kind of the end of the week when basically the guys were stranded there after the invasion, which ended on the 31st. Mm-hmm. So basically the Battle of Dunkirk ended on the 31st, and then these are the days afterwards. So that's why it's only a couple days.
Yeah, because when I first saw the movie, I was really thrown off because it says like right at the beginning, it's like the mole 1 week. And I didn't really realize until you and I kind of had a conversation about it after the fact, after I had seen it. Because this was like the one thing that was bothering me about the timeline of the movie.
It should be addressed, though, that as a potential con is that would obviously that has lost a few people. And it's understandable how that kind of goes by. Like it's only a couple of days instead of a full week. And when it says week, again, they don't factor in that the whole Dunkirk lasting that way. Lasting the battle lasting a week.
Yeah, like when you explain, like when
you gotta look into that to find that one out. So
when we were talking through it, and then I kind of realized, like, oh yeah, Nolan did kind of say that this was like a third act of a movie. So yeah, it does make sense that there'd be days before this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really, by all intents and purposes, this movie covers 2 days in these people's lives.
I think it would have gone a long way, again, with like the lines that kind of carry a lot of weight, if Darcy possibly said to the Brana character, like, it's been a week and nothing.
Yeah, right.
Something like, we've been here for
something
a week,
like that.
We deserve
something
to go
like
home.
that, so like we can establish that they've already been here for most of that week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a con there. It's like if we could have like that one line just to reaffirm, just in case anyone was lost, because again, it is there technically, but you gotta look into it.
Mm-hmm.
No one. Let's face it, no one does perpetually kind of have that problem sometimes, where a lot of it have to read between the lines, and that's not a bad thing. But sometimes,
I mean, Nolan he's just a filmmaker where he's not like, you have to study Nolan. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to hold your hand through anything.
Like, Nolan isn't necessarily I don't want to like, it's going to sound kind of strange, but he's not necessarily a general audience type guy. You got to be kind of track his stuff.
It's such a Nolan is like such a weird enigma, because you're absolutely right. He is not.
You know what I mean? But it sounds so strange to say, like, this director's not for a general audience, but he's
no. I mean, yeah, look, of course, like, there's directors that are clearly not for a general audience, like David Lynch and stuff like that. You know,
yeah, everyone and their grandma knows Quentin Tarantino, though, and it's kind of strange.
Right.
You know, it's like,
but the weird thing about Nolan is that he is both one of the most mainstream directors working today, in the sense that all of his movies are going to fucking make bank. Like, this thing is on track to be #1 at the box office for like a month straight, with like the week competition coming up in August. You know, like, there's nothing coming out in August.
As much as I love Ryan Reynolds, I don't think Hitman's Bodyguard's going to top Dunkirk.
Right. So, I mean, this thing has the potential to stay in theaters for months. And yet, like you said, Nolan is absolutely an mature filmmaker, where he is not going to hold your hand. He is not going to give you a traditional narrative.
Again, kind of Kubrickian in that way. Like, Kubrick wasn't exactly for everyone, but he had certain films that breached many subjects that people would watch.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to say he's like a more box office friendly version of Kubrick.
That's a great comparison. I like that.
Yeah.
I'd go with that. Yeah. Okay, let's go to nighttime. So basically, our guys, they finally managed to get on a ship, and here's a detail I really love to you. I hope you like this. Okay. I love the bit where basically on the inside, one of them stays on the outside. I believe.
Yeah, one of them escaping out an escape route. Yeah.
And I just love the idea that, on the inside, Alex and I think it's Alex and Gibson, or Alex and maybe Gibson's. One of them's on the outside, the two of them are inside. And basically, they go near the exit, and basically says, we need to be near the exit in case it goes down. Now let's talk about that. The way the ships go down, it's like a Titanic every 5 seconds, and it's cool.
Yes, it is.
Because every time, here's how we do it in war movies usually. It's okay, kaboom, explosion, ship's going, or it's lit on fire, and then it just kind of goes down. But again, you gotta remember, a lot of times the ship essentially is a boat, and it's going to capsize. And when it capsizes, it's going to be going down. You're going to have that old crap moment where basically you're hanging on the side, you're basically then running up the side of the ship, and we have that in this movie, and that's great.
Oh God, that shot where the water's coming up the side of the ship is fucking incredible.
That to me is terrifying when that ship is going sideways. Again, like Titanic, we're going to have to run up the side of it.
Right.
Again, the only good part of Titanic, when the ship's going down.
Oh, come on, let's not go that far. Jeez.
No, seriously, come on. Titanic, it was when the boat's going down, that's the good part of the movie. That's
the
good half. Again, it's half the movie, bear in mind. I'm not saying it's like the ending, but half the movie is the ship going down.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Let's see. So let's see
So I like how the movie I like how the beach stuff kind of has this structure to it, where it's like they're just constantly trying to get off the beach, right? It's basically like they get off the beach, and then they end up back on the beach, and then they get off the beach again, but in a much more perilous kind of circumstance, even more perilous than getting onto a boat and having the torpedo be shot, having the boat be torpedoed.
Oh, yeah. I love how we transitioned from that nighttime stuff to them being washed up on the shore the next day. I love that. It almost seems like, oh my God, they could have been out there at sea all night, and then they just washed up on their possibly.
I could definitely picture that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, let me address something with the water, then we'll get to the Dutchman's boat sequence.
Okay, sure.
So one thing I wanted to, with the hopelessness, I'm amazed no one was able to capture this. And this is like, I can imagine like talking to veterans and getting this realistic, scary detail from war just down Pat, where a man he ditches all his gear. It's in I think it's in one of the trails, but they don't see the full payoff of it. A guy's ditching his gear, and he walks into the water, killing himself.
And that is, like I said, Dragon, that is very much a true story that Nolan got from the interviews. Yeah.
I'm saying, it's a guy just he's so hopeless. I'm not going to let the Nazis kill him. I'm just going to walk.
I almost kind of wish we would have seen more of that.
We saw many guys dead bodies in the water. So the idea is more people did that.
Right.
I mean, that's enough for me. Again, I think there was this bit where they're making a blockade and they're not using the bodies, but they're making their bodies floating while they're kind of making a bank of vehicles for the tides. And speaking of the tides, Dutchman's boat.
Okay, this to me is the most intense set piece of the film.
This I will say is a Hitchcockian scene. Yes, this
absolutely,
is
absolutely.
I'll put up a Kubrick thing except for the sequence. This is all Hitchcock. It's such a tense target practice. And this to me is when the Nazis being unseen at its most effective. Yes.
Absolutely. I love I just love the setup for it, where it's okay, this boat is docked on land right now.
They're waiting for the tide to come in.
Yeah, we're just going to wait for the tide. Yeah.
Seemingly simple, but here's the thing. They've walked so far out of the rest of the soldiers, they are now in the enemy territory.
Mm-hmm. And I just love how the fact that they're waiting for the tide, and then once the tide does come, it becomes their biggest adversary.
Oh, God. Yes, it does. And again, just this terrifying idea of the Nazis aren't shooting them just to be. It's almost like a sadistic mind game, but the Nazis have no idea they're there. Just shooting, and I love they can tell by the grouping. It's just target practice. We say nothing, they're going to go away.
Oh God, yeah, it's so tense. It's so
poor
tense.
SOBs getting shot, and they have to cover his mouth. Don't say anything.
Yeah. And it's of course, it's and then you just have people are trying to plug the hole. There's just water rushing in.
I would never want to be that guy. Hey, they're still shooting at it. Plug the hole.
Oh God, right.
It's no, I'm terrified of finger loss, Tiki. I can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just so well. And then of course, just the whole idea of are you going to risk drowning down here, or are you going to risk being shot by going up above deck?
Oh God, yes, and just getting away their position, but also we have the turncoat. No, well, not the accused turn. Sorry, I'm trying to phrase this better. So Alex turn. Again, I love this. The guy that they save is the first to turn on Gibson.
Yes, right. And
again, it's showing you again the ambiguity, moral ambiguity of war. That again, Alex is something kind of scummy here, but again, it's for survival. And he would have done because the scuffle kind of keeps him afloat only for a few seconds before again matchstick moment going down. All this thing of and I love this. We kind of call into question the low dialogue. I call it low dialogue because there's not a lot of it. I guess it's kind of a dumb little shorthand for it. But it's now the little dialogue we do get. Gibson not speaking. He calls him on saying, "Hey, he's a Frenchman. He's trying to sneak a ride back. He's going out. He's gonna get shot at."
Yeah, I don't know, Dragon. I will say, it's one of those moments where it's of course, we've grown to know Gibson in the same way that Tommy has grown to know Gibson,
which is not knowing his whole backstory, but again, knowing what he's done. He's
exactly. So at that point of the movie, it's even though we don't want to see Gibson go down, he does have a point. You know what I mean? It's Gibson is a very shady figure for the whole, the whole stunt of stealing the dead person's clothes and everything like that. That is kind of justification to make Gibson go up first. I gotta say, if you're looking for justification in that moment, that's as decent of an argument as any. I don't know.
And again, honestly, if it were me, if I were Tommy, again, Tommy's like a greenhorn, so he didn't put this together. If I were Tommy, again, the audience member, many audience members can put themselves in the same shoes here. You see a guy doing what he was doing, again, oh my God, someone has killed this man and took his uniform, or someone has stolen the uniform off this guy's body. I wouldn't trust them.
Right.
But again, we see Gibson, he's a scared Frenchman. That's all he is. So I think there are two sequences here. Then I think we'll be done the lances. Basically, let's cover the oil rig stuff, then the train. I think that'll.
Okay, well, the oil rig, just that whole sequence is of course
that connects to our next
when the movie, like that whole sequence is like just the brilliant Christopher Nolan like masterwork of writing of like, okay, now the whole movie is just gonna come together in this brilliant bow, you know.
Yeah, basically, we have these, what are they? They're mine stalkers, I think they're called that. You know, but it is like boats that are designed to like kind of sniff out bombs, possibly. I don't know. The point is just military boats. Basically, and I love this. We set this up because we've seen dark water around the area. So when some of these boats are going down, it's like, you know, darkness around, or it's okay, oil, fuel from the boats. And basically, when these guys are coming, some of them are coming out, they're covered in like, you know, like brown oil and gunk on their faces, and just like that to me communicate. Oh no.
Right.
One stray shot, and it's the 4th of July. Oh my god! And it's such a big sequence. And to me, this is like the brilliance of the movie. And again, I will say this: I'll address a criticism here, but also praises. I'm gonna a coin flip here. So I think mainly when we're when it's nighttime, I will say I think some of the nighttime stuff that's a little jarring when we keep cutting around like that. Again, I can't necessarily say it's bad. I'm just gonna say I think it's some of the weaker kind of cuts between you know, the 3 sequences we get in the movie. Part of me feels like we could have just like kind of lost some of that, but just kept like, you know, like when we're like in the sinking ship. But I don't know. It seems basically some of the edits I think we could have maybe lost.
I will say that the edits, like, this is like it's a weird sort of halfway compromise, right? Because you don't want it to feel like a traditional Hollywood movie.
Yes.
And so in that respect, you don't want to have traditional transitions. But I feel like at certain points in the movie, it's like it almost just kind of feels like the cuts just happen sort of randomly. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It comes across as random sometimes, but I will give it. I'll give it this. I'll give it a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. Benefit of the doubt here. I will say I really need to see it again to really factor in.
Yes, you do need to see it again, my friend.
I want to see it again, but I will have to wait for that. My point is, it requires a second watch to give it a fair judgment because there could be a more thematic reasoning for the certain cuts that I need to factor in on a rewatch. That maybe, so I'm addressing that there's a maybe on that. I'm going to call that one a maybe.
Also, I will say I think it's pretty fun how Christopher Nolan kind of has a get out of jail free card with this movie, where it's like, if anything isn't up to par, it's realism. It's for the realism.
He does. And again, if anyone's saying I didn't like this movie, they're easy to say, well, then you hate veterans.
Oh God.
Then you love Nazis and you hate veterans. I hope you're happy.
Oh, man.
Again, it's an oversimplification, but he has the ultimate get out of jail free card. It's a war movie. Always have that. Again, everyone said, "Oh my God!" For a while, I got mad. Nowadays, you know, people are far more vocal with their opinions. Back then, you know, it's like Pearl Harbor's coming out. They're afraid to like kind of speak out against it. It's like, oh yeah, especially someone like Michael Bay would probably absolutely make this argument. Oh yeah, well, you didn't like.
Michael Bay would totally make that argument.
That's what I'm saying. Nolan wouldn't actually do this. I'm joking about Nolan, but I'm saying Michael Bay absolutely would say, "Well, then you hate America."
Oh God! Oh man!
Anyway, so let's see. The great thing with the editing that I was getting, it would kind of let us down this road. What's so great is that this is where our stories collide here. So, basically, as the oil's catching fire, and our guys, Alex and Tommy are in the oil in the water. Basically, they're holding their breaths underwater because this is the sadistic thing that Nolan captures the realism here. Those guys are going to have to come up for air, and they can't really swim around the oil, so they're going to have to come up and breathe fire.
Yep.
It's terrifying. Oh, God, that's horrific. But what's so great here is our guys are rescued, one of my favorite kind of elements of the movie as well. I love it when Dawson's boat rescues people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of great. They rescue the guys we're familiar with in the movie.
Yeah, and I feel like Dawson's boat is kind of like the big sort of connecting point between all 3 of these storylines for sure.
It's kind of, I don't mean this in a snarky way. I'm just saying it is very much. It's kind of the boat of Deus Ex. It's the SS Deus Ex Machina in a good way.
In a good way, right?
You know, it's that like, hey, yeah, it saved us. All right, that's cool, and it makes sense. You know, it's not exactly coming out of nowhere, but it's like, hey, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. So I guess let's go to the ultimate payoff with the train, because we already mentioned, again, we had that other great moment where Darcy's kind of he got his boats, like his Legion of boats came through, and Kenneth Branagh is not going with him, saying, I'm here as the last man. You know, says, I'll be here for the next wave.
Oh God, that's so good. Yeah,
really nice. But yes, let's get to the train. Start us off with the train.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think with the train, it's just we get that great sort of break in the tension as soon as they get on the train and they sit down, the clock stops and you just take a breath. It's like, okay, we did it. We lived through this.
Yeah.
I
love that there's a fear that they're going to be condemned for failing, but actually they are, they're celebrated for like surviving.
Yeah, you have that guy at the dock. He's just saying like, "Well done" to everyone, and I think it's Tommy who says,
the guy handing him the beer through the window. The guy handing him like the.
And I think it's Tommy who's like, all we did was survive. And he's like, that's enough, son. That's enough.
That's great.
And Dragon, the great thing about that is that really in the historical context, Dunkirk was what lit a fire underneath the British to really get their act together, you know what I mean? And really go at the opposition full force. Because Dunkirk, like, the actual mission of Dunkirk was a failure.
It was, again, I love that we do get they get their vindication through that newspaper.
It's a failure. Yeah, it's a failure that sparked a success. You know what I mean? It's a failure that sparked a victory. It's kind of like the ultimate, like, well, the Germans might have won the battle, but we are going to win the war.
It's quite inspiring, and it's kind of great to have that kind of, Churchill's words echoed in the movie.
Which, of course, I love this as well. This was a great touch. Obviously, like, another trope of war movies, Dragon, is the whole, like, big presidential speech. Yeah. And we get it, but we get it through the point of view as a character as he's reading it.
Yeah.
And I also love, like, this is a subtle thing, but I love how as Tommy's reading that newspaper, he's kind of unsure about it. You know what I mean? Having just lived through this, he's a little unsure of the message. Like, there's an air of ambiguity about how he delivers it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's see. So that's kind of that's the whole of the land stuff.
All right, now let's move on to my favorite.
Yeah, no, these are gonna go by quick because now that was like a weekend. Again, I think that a part of me thinks no one wanted to call it weekend, but his weekend doesn't sound exciting. That's what part of me feels like. It's only like 2 days, possibly 3.
Okay, so let's move on to what I think is the best portion of the movie, which is the boat scene. I mean, or the boat sequence, whatever you want to call it.
It's sea and it lasts days. This is over the course of a day.
Mm-hmm.
The day of the evacuation.
This to me is the heart and soul of the movie for me, and I think that Mr. Dawson and his son and George are the 3 most well-defined characters in the movie.
It's great, and it is the focus. I will concede that. My favorite is actually the third section. So, but I agree, it's really great, and it is the focus. Yes,
mm-hmm. And just oh my God, just Mark Rylance is just a treasure. I mean, I really need to start seeing more of his stuff. I really need to see Bridge of Spies because I appreciate his acting style so much in this movie. 2
things again. Oh my God, Bridge of Spies! He's so good in Bridge of Spies.
I'm sure he is.
He's minimal, but he's good. He's minimal but good, and works so well with Tom Hanks. And one thing, actually, now I'm thinking about it. I'm sorry, so I understand your place on this. And this is great, and I can see where this is focused. But actually, the more I'm thinking about it, actually, I don't know. Part of me. Dawson is the most well-defined character, yes. But I think for what the film is, I think Tommy kind of represents the...
No, Tommy is kind of like the Avatar.
That's the thing. I think Tommy represents the focus of the movie being about survival. I think he represents the survival element of it. But I think Dawson is, again, Dawson's the rescue.
That's the ultimate message of the movie.
That's the thing. Again, that's why we have 3 important avatars in these sections.
Yes, we do.
Dawson's the most well-defined. Tommy is the most representative, and the other one I think is the coolest. So we'll get there. So they're all great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so so I guess let's start with, of course, as they're going out. Obviously, like, we get some good kind of character stuff with the George character, who this is his first time on a mission like this. I mean, keep in mind all the people on the boats are kind of out of their element. The whole idea is that these are civilian vessels that are being called in to assist. And like I said, Dragon, balls of steel on these men.
And you gotta remember, the Navy they're commandeering the boats, but Dawson here, because again, he had a son who we reveal towards the end that he had a son who was taken out in like the first weeks of the thing. Mm-hmm. Because of that, and I think he's always longed to be a pilot. I don't know if they say that or they hint it, because he knows all the planes, like he knows them by recognize. I think he also has aspirations. He has aspirations to be a soldier of some variety. based on that, he's doing it himself, where everyone else is either being commandeered or, again, some of them are taking the call on. So, I mean, again, Dawson, you're right, balls of steel for Dawson. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That, I mean, like, Rylance is just so admirable. You know, he's just like,
again, Tiki,
go into war, son. It's our duty. Right. So, like I said, I like the three-way dynamic we have going on in the ship with Dawson, Dawson's son, and then George. You know, George kind of representing the innocence of the war, the loss of innocence.
Dawson, Peter, and George, yeah.
And then we get Cillian Murphy as the shivering soldier, who might be the most captivating character in the movie.
That's the thing. You know what? Cillian Murphy, he communicates so much with so little. It is impressive. At the same time, though, and again, he has to be over a barrel in this movie because I can't. I want to say there's a bit of a gripe here, but at the same time, that's the intention, and that's right. I mean, it's unconventional.
What's the gripe?
The gripe is he doesn't really have a payoff for his stuff, Murphy. I mean, he is. What I mean is,
a character like that in a situation like that is not going to have a payoff. His life is fucked.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, again, that's the point. What you said is that's the point. It's, at the same time, though, again, he doesn't. Nothing really happens.
To me, I think the payoff, like all we need from the payoff of this character, is when Rylance is saying, like, he may never be the same again. That's all we need, really. Yeah,
that's the thing. You're right. I can't really argue against that. So I think, again, I think you got it. I don't know. I think that kind of solves my problem with that. I don't know. He's complex. That's the thing. He's complex, and that's the point.
Yeah, I love how it's not just a black and white, like, he is a coward, he is a bad man. Ooh.
He was shot out of the... He survived being shot out of the sky, folks. Don't forget that.
No. He was torpedoed.
He was?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, he was on the ship. Sorry. Yes, he was.
And then they rescue another guy who was shot out of the sky. Yeah.
So, but yes, he was. Point is, he was shot down, and he was shot down. He sees like the lone survivor of something that was shot down.
Mm-hmm. I just, like I said, I love the just the small lines of dialogue that Rylance gives, kind of forgiving him. You know, it's like when they're trying to get him inside, and he's like, I don't think he wants to be inside. I feel like, you know, like he feels safer being outside. Would you feel safe inside after your ship got torpedoed?
And I guess my issue was that he had no words for Peter, for, you know, his friend getting killed. But at the same time, though,
no. But the thing is though,
yeah, it's because you don't have any words after that.
Yeah, he has no words for it.
And that's the point. So that's why it's so. Yeah, you're right. It's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look for. I'm just saying it's like I was looking for. You understand? Again, I told you, Dunkirk. Oh yeah, I keep going back to that. But you know what I mean? It's just the Cillian Murphy I was looking forward to, and again, now knowing with the film what it turned out to be, of course, Cillian Murphy's not gonna have like a lot of stuff to do. It's all about kind of it's like a Rorschach test of good acting.
I mean, this movie is like the ultimate kind of like ensemble picture where everyone's contributing to it, and no one has except maybe Rylance. I think Rylance is like the one character who maybe gets more of a focus on who he actually is as a person. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that, I love that we have a very practical use of Dawson here, where he knows the plan. He knows the planes.
He knows the planes. Yeah.
Which is great, and that's like, again, we have just enough with Dawson. Again, it's enough to he's the hero riding in on the third act. That's what Dawson is.
The British or the German planes are also very much kind of a Jaws thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, they are. Again, Red Baron in a way. Red Baron almost. And that's World War I, but I'm just kind of mixing them a little bit here.
Okay, but yeah, with the shivering soldier, first of all, I love how that's the credit Cillian Murphy gets. I think that's so appropriate.
It is.
Yeah, with the shivering soldier, I just love the desperation in that scene. You know what? He's like, "Oh fuck, no, I'm not going back to Dunkirk."
We foreshadow what happens to George, and that George, I believe it's George, provides him with the tea, and he slaps the tea out of his hand. That was George, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
then it comes to Howard Hamlin, and Howard Hamlin just sheds a single tear like Iron Eye Cody.
Oh, we have this. Howard Hamlin's. Oh god, Howard Hamlin's at a World War II museum, and he's looking at a little like a section about Dunkirk, and he sheds a tear as patriotic playing. He goes to the refreshment stand they have on the side, and he goes, "Tea, please."
Okay. It's like we have like a little cameo from Howard Hamlin in that scene where like everyone's getting tea on the boat, like he's just there in the background.
No, he's the guy giving the tea out. He's the tea hero.
Oh god. Okay.
And he just has this really dumb line. And it's dumb because it makes no sense when it ends. Oh god, I'm sorry.
Oh no. Oh no.
Says this is far better than the Boston Tea Party. Again, makes no sense. Makes no sense. The dumbest line ever, but it would just be kind of funny for him.
Patrick Fabian needs to star in a Boston Tea Party movie. That's all I'm saying. Anyways.
Okay. Back on point here. So again, the point is the tea thing kind of telling us that George is
Dragon, if I knew how far that Hamlin tea thing would go when we first came up with it,
would you erase it if you had the chance?
No, I would not. I'd just be like, oh man, this is going to be great.
Okay, but no, sir. So the point is the tea telegraphs something bad happening to George at the hands of the shivering soldier here. And what was it? Take us through what happens.
Yeah, I mean, well, basically, like throughout the movie, it's like, you know, the shivering soldier, like he pushes George down a stairwell into the below deck, and the whole movie, the rest of the movie is kind of like George, you know, like they're like we're not sure if he's going to survive or not.
He has a serious head wound, and it's they have no way of treating him all the way out here. And again, Rylance does bear some blame on this.
He does. He
could have turned back, but he went on with the mission. Again, he saved more people, so he did the right. I would say he did the right thing, but it's a sad thing. It's a sad.
I would say too.
It's the tough choices of war, and again, it's done in kind of a. I love. Let me talk about George here about his demise. So
okay. So
with George boarded the vessel at the last minute. It was like a really impulse decision. He wanted to do it because he wanted to do something with his life. He wanted to do something that mattered. Mm-hmm. That's a noble pursuit. It's a noble kind of a kid who, well, let's just say like a Steve Rogers, the guy couldn't quite cut it like in the military possibly, or he's really young.
That is actually a good comparison, yeah.
For some reason, the kid couldn't quite cut it in like kind of these, like let's say he's a 4F, you know, like a guy who flunks out of the, you know, he's kind of flunked out of the thing or something. The point is a kid can't quite go and serve with everyone, but takes his chance to help any way he can, and he dies. And again, this is like kind of a beautiful tragedy. Again, I say beautiful tragedy, and it's kind of beautiful at the same time. It's so sad and tragic. It's that he is killed in such a nothing-like manner. He's killed by accident. And he's knocked downstairs. He's not even killed in combat or anything. He's
right.
By accident. The boat's not. He doesn't fall overboard or anything. He's like in a scuffle. He is knocked down the stairs, and he's in a helpless position. And then he dies off screen essentially. I mean, the body's there, but he's dead, boy. And with that, what I love, what's so beautiful about the culmination of everything here is that. Peter, what he does is he gives George's information to the coroner, whoever, like a reporter, I guess, reporter who shows up, and he basically says, he was the hero of the evening, essentially. So basically, they don't get credit. George does. That's a beautiful moment. That's a beautiful tragedy.
It is. Yeah.
And also, I love the door sequence with Killian Murphy. I thought he was going to get him. Hide and he was going to attack him, but no, he went up on deck and he's like, "Tell him you have to turn around." Right, and all the chaos breaks out later on. There, so the point is, George gets all the credit, which is really nice. Let's see. Now I got to address my favorite thing with Dawson. So awesomely, I love this, and I love how Dawson kind of connects to everything here. Like, Dawson saves all the downed pilots and the crewmen, including Collins. I really like Collins.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. Yeah.
And again, basically doing this, the moment where he rescues Collins is the moment that links up all our stories.
It is. You're right.
Again, we're in the water. We just saved the other guys. We're on the route to save the other guys. Collins actually has some medical. I believe he kind of gives the. I might be before George dies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because remember, George dies when they first start bringing people onto the boat, and the below deck is getting crowded, and that's when Peter's like, "Hey, look out for it," and it's like, "No, he's dead, son."
We'll still look out for him.
Oh God, I love that.
Right?
I love that line, Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah, be careful with him then.
Honoring the body, man. That's God, that's a beauty right there.
He doesn't even miss a beat, You got
to admit, there's some power behind the idea that all of those men survived on that ship but one, and there was the one body with the white cloth being kind of carried out of that boat, but still all those men around that boat except for that one body. That's a powerful image, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
One sacrifice saved all those men. So with that, let's talk about Collins in one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yes.
Hour. Not going to be long, but it's going to be cool.
No, not going to be long at all.
But seriously, again, this is
basically an action scenes thrown out throughout a movie.
It is really, again, the ticking motif works very well for our stories. I think it works it's hard to say where it works best because
Oh,
again,
I think it definitely. Well, I mean, yeah, it is hard to say
because again, the ticking ending with the train, but again, being like ticking at the very beginning,
and on the beach, it's just like the tension. The ticking works great for the tension on the beach, but it also works great just kind of being used in sort of a diegetic sort of point of view from the planes.
Like the only time the ticking, again, like you could make an argument that the sea of the ticking is just kind of is worked in there, but the sea, it's not. Well then again, time is I'm sorry, I'm wrong here. Yes, the ticking matters because when George gets into time is of the essence. So again, the ticking is more
right.
The ticking's relevant in all stories here, but for me, because it's an hour, because it's the shortest amount of time, I think the ticking matters a great deal for the air stuff. So the air stuff, we have 3 characters. We have I hope I'm saying this right because I feel it's fairer.
I think it's Farrier.
Farrier.
Yeah.
All right, Farrier. So we have Farrier played by Tom Hardy. We have Collins, Jack Lowden, who, I think thought did a good job. No idea what he's done before. Nolan went to a lot of theatrical talent for this movie.
He did.
And the leader, who was unseen, you know who voices him, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Tell the folks.
So, my cocaine.
Yes.
Michael Caine.
I love that. Again, he has like kind of a good role that we don't see, but
he has a great cameo right in the beginning. Yeah,
yeah, he's the
first. Like, oh, it's him. There's the voice. Michael Caine is almost kind of like turned into like the John Ratzenberger of Nolan movies.
I would love it if he just kept that up because I like that idea. Caine as the Ratzenberger.
Like he never has the largest role, right? But he's always like in there somewhere.
So let's see. So again, these guys. So again, they're Spitfire pilots. They're really cool. Of course, we have Hardy with kind of the mask going on there, and importantly, is like the oxygen mask and the kind of the cool kind of leather fighter pilot. The pilot.
I love how this section of the movie keeps track of time through the. It keeps track of the amount of fuel that they've gone through measuring time. Like that's definitely a good kind of ticking clock device as well. You know how they're like writing the time markers on the dashboard.
I love that they're writing it. I love it. Just like there's no pen and paper up there. And
right.
And there was a movie. I think it's called Lock. I want to say it's called Lock. That basically Nolan was looking at a movie Tom Hardy did. He's in a
Tom Hardy in a car the whole movie. Yeah, I've seen it. It's good.
Is it called Lock?
Yeah, it's not the most rewatchable movie in the world, but the conceit behind it is really good.
Well, the idea is that's where he looked to.
Literally, it's like if Buried is Ryan Reynolds in the coffin the whole movie, Locke is Tom Hardy in a car the whole movie.
Well, but yeah, with that, that's kind of like where he got the inspiration to put him in this movie, where he's going to be in a cockpit the whole movie. Which is cool. I mean, I like that kind of him getting the inspiration. That's why he didn't write it for Hardy, but he realized Hardy would be perfect after seeing that movie.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. So basically, I love that these guys are, basically, Dawson is kind of the unlikely hero. You know, he's like kind of the everyman becoming a hero. We have our guys who are not here. Well, in some respects, they are heroes for being there in the first place, but this, like, they're very I don't want to say unheroic. That sounds mean, but you know what I mean. Like they're very scared. They're striving for survival. They're heroes in a different capacity. These guys are like kind of the traditional.
I mean, they've got by far the scariest jobs out of anyone in this movie.
Yes, like what I'm saying here is like these guys are the traditional heroes of Act 3. They're providing cover and protection.
Exactly. That's the great thing, Dragon. I feel like these characters are sort of like the traditional war movie characters that you would usually follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could probably make a Steven Spielberg war epic about this group of fighter pilots.
I love that our 3 stories are like colliding like trains, like we're about to run into each other because one's trying to leave Dunkirk, the other 2 are making their way to Dunkirk.
Yes,
one fast, one over the period of a day, and they all link up at this exact moment of time. But like they're all the heroes swooping. Basically, they're all like Han Solo, kind of swooping in on at the end of Star Wars. Essentially, that's kind of what our air section is here. It's like this is like the journey Han Solo took to get to the Death Star.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that seeing this air stuff in IMAX is absolutely incredible. I'm sure. Just the wide shots of those planes and the cloud, it's just beautiful. It's stunning.
But I tell you, with the Star Wars reference that was dropped, and I have to agree with people who are bringing this up, it is kind of a modern day equivalent to when Lucas used the old World War II footage for modeling the Star Wars action sequence.
I absolutely think this just sets a new standard for dogfight scenes in movies,
and especially in that 70mm with the film grain. I mean, it looks like documentary footage. Again, all throughout this movie, that documentary feels there. Honestly, the only time the documentary feel isn't exactly there is with the sea, because the sea feels like a movie. Everything else feels like documentary stuff.
Sure. And I mean, even the sea does have like it is shot with a handheld camera and everything.
I mean, it has a very like this. It's like you have like imagine this. You have a reporter on the sea almost. It's almost like you have like someone like documenting. You have someone documenting like a documentary, but you have someone just from a distance filming everything for the other two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. And that's why maybe it feels more personal.
I love the fuel gauge setup. The idea, and you stress the time of it all here, but I love the fact that we know our guy is doomed to a certain extent. That his fuel is running out. He only has an hour to get to Dunkirk and provide cover for his guys. And it's such a great setup. Like time is of the essence for a reason here because it's like that hour going by is more and more risk. The risk is piling up for Farrier.
And as the movie goes on, the three different timelines become more and more critical to each other. You know what I mean? Like the week and the day. It all just becomes critical that they all meet up, which makes that whole timeline thing really worth it in the end.
I love the heroism on Farrier here. Basically, again, the Farrier is probably my favorite, and we have some really good. We have a lot of good ones in here, folks.
I think Farrier is kind of like the closest this movie has to like the man in the white hat. You know what I mean? Just the unabashed good guy.
That's what I like the white hat characters. That's probably
right.
So, and with that again, just you feel that hour like really creeping up on him because again we have that paranoia of like that fuel gauge. It's broken, so he has no idea how much fuel he has. He's just crunching the numbers.
Right.
And it's great. Of course, like throughout, basically on his journey, he's like noticing other people in danger, and he kind of has to help him out along the way, which is taking him away from that hour. And again, that fuel gauge, like that's how. And he loses Collins in the process. He has no idea if Collins is alive because he doesn't seem like kind of do the wave or anything. But
all right, so let really quick, Dragon. Let's talk about the Collins rescue scene, which. Sure. I mean, I think it's. Oh
yes, you're right. Yeah, the Collins thing's great.
It's very arguable between what is the more intense scene in the movie between that and the target practice scene, because between those two scenes, water is just a fucking bitch.
Yep. Because again, so he's like trying to beat either a flare gun or a pistol.
It's a flare gun. Yeah.
He's just trying to because of course the flare gun comes in handy with Tom Hardy's thing. Mm-hmm. He's just beating the crap out of Seal trying to break because either the ejector thing hasn't been invented yet or it's broken or something. He can't get it working, so he has to beat it.
Well, I mean, we see Tom Hardy lift the thing up at the end, so I assume it's broken.
Right. Yes. Well, yeah. It's broken. He's trying to beat his way out as the water's filling in, and he's like,
oh god, that water, man! It's just like I've seen the movie twice, and seeing the movie a second time didn't make that scene any less intense.
And again, the crossover of it all saves him.
Mm-hmm. Which, of course, as you said, is kind of the moment where all three of the stories kind of come together.
Good old Peter and Mr. Dawson save him.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dragon, I want to talk about, maybe, to me, this might be the most Hollywood moment in the movie, and it's when, it's the biggest buy for me, is when Farrier runs out of fuel, and yet he still manages to gun a couple planes down, and turn around, and do a perfect landing on the beach. I'm like, no. That's it's kind of like a John Lasseter, we don't care. But
come on, you can't hold that against the movie. If we're gonna give all these benefit of the doubt, you cannot hold that against this movie. It's
impossible, Drake. As soon as that fuel gauge runs out, that plane is gonna go down.
It wasn't completely. He was riding on fumes. He put it on reserve.
I understand. Yeah, he was riding on fumes. Yeah.
So I'm saying, he's not completely without gas, but even if he is, I can give it the buy that he's gliding.
I mean, it's a buy. It's a little bit of a suspension of disbelief.
TK, my second favorite moment in the movie, my first favorite moment is that opening. Second favorite moment is the gliding save. I love the gliding save, darn it.
Okay, fair enough. I
love it when he runs out of fuel. That's the other moment. Basically, I'm expecting any moment this guy's going to be a goner. And we have this beautiful bit where again, looks like our men are fishing a barrel on the mole, where he swoops in while he's going. Again, to me, it just seemed like while he was mid.
And that's such an awesome kind of fist pump moment. I mean, I won't take that.
That's what I'm saying, man. Yeah. I just love that moment of they're goners. He reached there, but his little things of heroism earlier on have cost him his mission. But again, while he's he's out of gas, he fires while he's going like the doomed man is like taking a few out on his way. That's the way I read it before knowing he was gonna make it. And then he becomes kind of the symbol on the way as everyone's like pumping their fists, and you're like, we the audience are saying, again, he's like a surprise symbol of hope in a way, like, oh my god, we were goners and this guy saved us. And again, he's the representation of hope in a hopeless situation, because again, it's a pilot with like the propeller's not going. It's like it's a plane that's going down. It's a doomed plane, and yet somehow he's still doomed, but he's like this sacrificial mascot who has a really tense landing here, where again he by the seat of his pants he lands, and of course he burns the plane, destroys it, and again I'm basically taking us through the end here. I'm just realizing because
that's fine.
Basically, the sacrificial thing here. Well, again, even if he didn't crash, he's still a goner because he gets out and he flares up the plane. And as we have, again, just to bring back the train thing here for a second, again, where things are intersecting. Again, Nolan loves to do this, and I think this is an effective way Nolan did it here. It's beautiful, where Tommy is reading the Churchill speech.
Mm-hmm.
He's reading the speech about land, air, and sea, and as he's reading it, we see last shot is Hardy without the mask or the helmet on, and he's just being taken prisoner by the Nazis with the plane on fire behind him.
And the Nazis are coming, but we still don't see their faces.
Right? That's all that we have. Guns. That's about it. That's the closest we get.
Oh, right.
Oh
right.
my god, that's a way you end a movie, man. That's great.
All right, so Dragon, that is the movie for you, folks.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, then. Go ahead.
Well, I liked it. Oh, seriously though, I gotta tell you again, like anytime, again, really delving through, but as well as every time I think on it, obviously needs a second watch, but also just needs second watch because it's really that good, not just because of figuring some stuff out. But honestly,
no, I mean, like you trust me, seeing it a second time, things do come into focus a lot more.
Again, folks, my main kind of thesis on this movie, I guess, is that this is an experimental Nolan film. So if anyone is unsure, it's it's experimental because he's testing things out. It's a game. I don't want to just say game changer. I reserve that for Deadpool. That's a game changer. But this, in a way, it's an experimental. It's Nolan doing an experimental film that is kind of changing things fundamentally. Mm-hmm. It is again, it's stuff we haven't seen. Again, it's kind of like a Kubrickian Rorschach test, where Kubrick would lay out all this amazing stuff we never considered, and kind of laying things out in kind of a narrative format. And that's kind of what he's doing. He's kind of throwing stuff on the canvas and seeing what works, but it's somehow orchestrated. He has a plan with this, but he's testing out things. So part of me feels it doesn't beat the Inception in my heart necessarily, but the film, I will say this, the filmmaking is superior to anything he's done. It's probably the most superior filmmaking he's accomplished, but at the same time, I don't think it quite measures up to kind of the story levels. It's just it's so competently made and amazing, and it's just for that reason it's an experience. The film is an experiment. It's an experiment that is also a grand experience. It's about making the most immersive film you can. He succeeded in that in spades. It's an amazing immersive film. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm, just to echo all you said, Dragon, I definitely think this is one of Nolan's more experimental films. I feel like this is almost kind of his career going full circle. Like I said, it's like, like he's
following again.
Yeah, more so kind of Memento with playing around with the timeline thing. But I don't know, like I said, it's such a fascinating piece of filmmaking right here, where it's like all of the tropes and traditions of a war movie are kind of present here, but done in a way where it's like almost sort of a subversion of those tropes, where we get like just the mere mention of them, but they're just they're played around with it. I truly think this movie is more of a thriller than it is a war movie. I mean, I think this is a visceral film in terms of just putting you into the experience and making you feel what those people went through. I mean, you feel the sea air on, like you can smell the sea air and you can feel the mist and the waves. You know what I mean? It's like
you hear the ring of the gunshots.
Yeah, it's a very, very sensory movie. It's a very I've not seen a movie like it when it comes to dealing with characters and when it comes to like developing characters and developing relationships through very, very little dialogue. And just, I don't know, I just gotta say that the way the story's told with those three timelines, it's inspiring to me as a storyteller. You know what I mean? It makes me want to go out and get my writing chops again. You know what I mean? Because it's such a cool way to tell a story. It's such a unique way to tell a story. that I really hope that this catches on. I really like. I don't know. I think this is a nice kind of like second win for Nolan after him. So after like The Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar, which both good movies. I will begrudgingly say Dark Knight Rises is a good movie.
Aha!
Begrudgingly say that.
I'll take that.
But also kind of two of his weaker films, just in the grander context of things. I think this is a great sort of home run for Nolan. I think this is a great kind of comeback. It's the first, this is the first kind of masterpiece of a movie that Nolan's done since Inception.
It feels, you know what it feels like, Tiki? It feels kind of like a cross between Inception and Interstellar. It's kind of like the grandiose. It feels like kind of the filmmaking of. Well, I'm saying like the framing is a little bit like Inception, kind of the levels of the dream, and
sure,
and also just like the Inception of the not the title. I'm saying like the idea being formed in the movie. The whole. This idea of no one just thinks on kind of this genius level. I don't mean to just bolster, but I'm saying he literally thinks on kind of this genius level, like he did with all these these tricks of the mind in Inception. Like the thing kept when I heard he actually looked into the threefold triptych structure. That feels very much like kind of like that paradox thing where basically Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like walking up the staircase and he kind of stops him. Wait, it's a paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's it's an Escher steps type thing. It feels again he's thinking on that level, and it's kind of what you have in this movie. It's kind of that Inception level of thinking with a film, but also is kind of it feels it's a kind of a simplistic heist like that almost, but at the same time it's kind of has the tricks or kind of the money behind it that Interstellar does.
Sure.
It's kind of a cross between, I guess. It's its own thing, but it's kind of its own ballpark, so it's kind of hard to say. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, folks. Certainly, a great movie. Check it out. I would recommend watching it twice in theaters if you have the resources to do so. I think it's well worth it. At the very least, probably in Dragon's case, at least check it out once it comes on home video. Home video. Ha! What outdated terminology. So yeah, great movie. Can't wait to see what Nolan does next. My faith in him after Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar is pretty much completely restored. Yeah.
Dunkirk.